And we are now recording live. Hi, everybody. This is Vicky from the RPG Alliance, and I'm so happy to be part of this panel. Hags, Witches, and Queens, Women in Gaming. And I'm joined by, well, I'll let them introduce themselves. I'm going to throw or pass the duchy to Joan of Arc.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Joan of Arc, Destroyer. My full name is within that, so you guess. Anyway, I run Dungeon Crawl Classics, and it's my RPG of choice. What else would you like to know, Vicky?
Maybe tell them about your podcast, and then we'll let Marie jump in.
Well, duh. Yeah. Okay. So my podcast is Order of Shana or Shana, spelt different ways, but then there's a couple ways of saying it, just like people tried it with my name. Order of Shana Podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and the best, podcast app near you. So it just started in August, so there's not a lot of episodes up.
What about you, Marie?
My name's Marie. I have been a part of the LGBTQA Dungeons and Dragons meetup group for about 3 years. That's when I started D&Ding. I have been gaming for a while. In fact, my very first gaming was online MUDs back in the kind of the early to mid 90s. And dropped out of it, got into World of Warcraft, got out of that. But so in 3 years, I've gone from being, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, to actually running some Dread games and some D&D games.
Cool. And I just wanted to thank, I see in the Facebook chat, Brent and Christine and Ellis, thank you so much for joining us. We got 6 viewers, so thank you guys. If you want to put your questions for us in the chat as we go along, or if you have any interesting comments or experiences you want to share. I'm Vicky Lalonde. I am the organizer for RPG Alliance and LGBTQ plus Allies D&D meetup group, the RPG Alliance meetup group, the John Carter of Mars Facebook gaming group. I really need to get a life, and the Star Trek and sci-fi meetup gaming group. You can tell I really like gaming a lot, so I just find that I like organizing these things. I like bringing people together. I like creating an inclusive community, and I'm really happy to be here on this panel with these lovely people. And I guess we should probably actually also, when we get our next turn up, mention what our pronouns are as well, if you want to. But I'll throw it to you, back to you, Joan. And if you just want to give us an idea about how you came to the role-playing hobby.
I came to the role playing hobby through Magic the Gathering game. The owner of the game store, the DM of D&D 3.0, 3.5. I started gaming when I was 50 years old. So won't tell you how many years ago that was, but I I played for a while, and then I was introduced to Dungeon Crawl Classics, I believe in 2016, and I continued to play on a D&D 3.0, 3.5 group for up until like beginning of last year, not this 2019. But I immediately dove into Dungeon Crawl Classics. I was at Gen Con 50, which was the first Gen Con I'd ever been to. And Goodman Games. It was a contest I won with Goodman Games. Was there for 4 days. Met 5 other women that were running Dungeon Crawl Classics. I think that was about all that was really running Dungeon Crawl Classics back in 2016. and we became the inaugural charter members of Order of Shana. And that's what Joseph Goodman called the women running Dungeon Crawl Classics. Not just playing, but you have to be running it to be part of the Order of Shana. So I dove right in and ended up being the most running GM. We call them judges in Dungeon Crawl Classics for 2017 for Road Crew, which is I was running twice a week. Then yeah, so it's more than for that year. I ran probably nearly 100 games.
Holy crap.
So, yeah. 2 local bookstores, well, a game store and a bookstore. And I was running Road Crew then. So,
All right. How about you, Marie? How'd you get
Um,
into? I mean, you kind of mentioned a little bit in the introduction, but
yeah. I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing because I'm also I came to RPG D&D late in my life, or later in my life, late 40s, and yeah, it's actually, or was I actually 50? I don't know.
at this
How
stage of
old
life,
am
we don't
I?
care.
I don't care.
We don't care.
So, but it's interesting because coming in as kind of that kind of an older, and not having had the kind of grown up with it or having even that kind of knowledge, but basically kind of got involved in it because I was trying to, my spouse and I, we've moved around. We lived out east. We lived in the UK. We came here to Calgary. It's hard as you get older to make friends, to get into kind of social gatherings. And I saw this meetup and I thought, I've always wanted to play. Let's give it a go. Let's try it. And got really sucked into it. Not sucked into it, but it was such an engaging way of socializing.
Mhm.
And also, but also kind of feeding into my love of fantasy, love of role playing, and also learning new skills and new ways of finding these parts of you that, as you were growing up, you kind of shifted away because that when I was growing up, that's not what girls did, women did. But finding it so much fun, and finding it as a different way of and connecting with people, and that's kind of what I loved. And also now trying to bring in my other friends and cohorts into playing D&D, and not selling it as, well, we're sitting around playing characters,
Yeah.
but just talking about interactive, cooperative storytelling, and how engaging that is, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the short of it, but that's how I came into it.
Cool.
how about you, Vicky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have grabbed. I
Tell
should
me
have
about
grabbed
you.
my D&D the box with the red dragon on it. I have it right over there. I came into it really through comic books, and then through reading fantasy books, through Edgar Rice Burroughs, through Anne McCaffrey's Dragons of Pern, Raymond Feist, Magician's Apprentice, all those kind of David Eddings, the Bulgarian, especially one of my favorite, The Dragon Prince by Melanie Ron. So I really came in it the fantasy thing part from comic books that got me to novels that got me to gaming, because you see in the back of the comic books gaming ads, right? And I'm 52 and damn proud of it. I made it this far. And I grew up, I was 9 years old when Star Wars came out. So, and that just lit my whole imagination, and I still love Star Wars. So gaming, I knew about D&D. I couldn't find anyone to play with. My parents brought me back this box from their trip to Hawaii, because you couldn't get things like that in Canada at that time, not in a small town, rural Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my little D&D box to school, and the boys wanted to play, but they didn't want to play with me. They wanted to play with my box, which sounds dirty, especially from a lifelong lesbian. I didn't even know what they meant. Anyway, took my box and I went home. I couldn't find people to play with. And so really when I got started, well, I did play a little bit, but again, they used me for my box. And I guess I'm killing the box joke over and over a little bit. They used me for my box. That doesn't sound very good on a women in gaming group
You
panel.
gonna edit this?
Okay, I gotta end it.
Hey,
The
if
box.
it's true,
No,
it's true, right?
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
But then in university, I got to play in res, which was really fun. But again, I'm the only girl playing in res with my dudes, my buddies. And then in law school, I got to play D&D 3.5 in a regular group. And then law school, you graduate, you go other places, and you lose that group. But right in between, I discovered Muds and Moos, which are text
Yeah.
based role playing games. And I discovered Vampire the Masquerade. And that was a
Oh,
game changer. It was an adult theme role playing game where women, where the pronoun she was the default pronoun in all of their
Wow.
editions. And
Mm.
that in the 90s, I think this was probably 97, and opened my eyes. I was playing a Dragon of Pern mush, and a friend said, You need to, you need to let go of the dragons and come over to the dark side, Vicky."
to the dark side.
And I'm like, "Okay, sexy lady, take me there," even though we're on mushes, right? And so we started playing Vampire the Masquerade. And I'll just say this and I'll wrap this part up. But Vampire the Masquerade was important because it always had queer people, it always had LGBT people, it always had people of color, it had people from around the world, from different cultures built into the system. And sometimes in a bit of a stereotypical way, but it was still there. And then if you played one of those characters from a different cultural background or whatever, you could make it your own and bring some authenticity to it. And so, and I have to say, I'm a big fan of Vampire the Masquerade. Um, and and on just on a final note, I came back to D&D when fifth edition came out to connect with my stepson at the time, to get him off of his PlayStation 4 and Call of Duty. Get those headphones off, boy! And now look at me now, I'm on headphones, and to get him and his friends to play with us. And from that gaming group, the parents start to play, and from that parent group, two of the parents married and have been married for 2 years. So I think that analogy or that story just shows the connection that this hobby can do for people, bringing people together, getting people around a table, laughing, socializing, playing, the art of play. And so that's how I came
Yeah.
into the hobby. And I just want to point out that we've got a good question from Ellis. Speaking of D&D, he goes,
Yeah.
he asks or comments, I feel like there are so many other games that don't get the respect they deserve compared to D&D. How do you each feel about this? Just throw it to Joan first because I know you have really interesting feelings about that.
Exactly. I had to break away from D&D, um, from the group I was in, and it left a very sour note in my mouth, in my mind, and in my heart. I had to leave a group of friends, because of some actions that were taken. Um, I left that group because I was not being heard. I threw up the X card a couple of times. I was open with my feelings, and it wasn't taken. My feelings, initially I thought were taken into account, and it ended up a big joke to them. Um, I walked away, and never looked back. I still do have the older D&D. I am a bit nostalgic. I when I started playing D&D 3.0, 3.5, I did try 4.0, but
Oh
I
my
was
God.
like,
You
I
tried
did. I
4.0?
did. Yeah, I did. Um
God bless you.
but I really was like, I want to know what the game was like at the start. So I have the original. I went out to eBay and I got the original Monsters Manual and some of the other uh, got the red box, the Mensa red box. And I really started digging into that. But again, it was kind of like Vicky, and nobody wanted to play with me the old stuff. So then when so then when Dungeon Crawl Classics came up, and it is OSR, I mean, really, it feels like a very easy 3.0, 3.5. It's very simplified, and it's gonzo. I mean, what other word can you really say about Dungeon Crawl Classics? uh Joseph Goodman wrote an excellent game, and it's just pretty much open play. I mean, as a player, say what you want to do, roll the dice. If the dice tells you that you can do it, let's do it. And there's a lot of laughter, crazy stuff, but be creative. In the new 5.0, I know in D&D 5.0, I know they've tried to bring it back, but there are way too many races and classes for me. I like it simplified, and I don't think there's, I'll play, but I'm not into min maxing at all. Roll 3d6 down the line like Crom intended. That's the way I want to play. That's exactly the way I want to play.
How about you, Marie? How do you feel about other games not getting the respect compared to D&D?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I think the question is for one thing, D&D. Let's face it, the popularity of D&D over the past 3 or 4 years is so connected to modern culture, like Stranger Things.
I will not disagree with that. So
so it becomes the gateway, in a way, the gateway drug to
It
a lot of
is
RPG.
the gateway drug.
and
drug me, baby.
and the other thing too is that there are concepts around, like D&D and probably Dungeon Classics, that's kind of familiar to people who may have been coming in from like MUDs or other kind of computer games.
Video games, yeah.
Yeah, you've got wizards, you've got sorry, I talk with my hands. Well, you got wizards, you've got fighters, you've got paladins. Those are kind of concepts that are easy if you don't have any kind of D&D background, but you have that kind of knowledge of how those kind of characters play in a game situation, that it becomes familiar and you can attach yourself. And I think what's really interesting is it's maybe about respect, but it's also about how many people are actually leading the games and how many people are leading different games. So for example, we have over 500 members in our meetup group.
Yeah.
And who's leading those games? Everybody wants to play, but
Yes.
there's a lot of difficulties to say, if you have a certain game you want to play, sometimes you're going to have to step into the role and GM it. Yep. And introduce that to other people, and be the spokesperson, be the ambassador for that game. And I think that's part of it. I mean, and I am shocked. I am absolutely shocked at how many different RPG games there are.
Yeah.
And how the different mechanics work. And having kind of gotten in and just getting my feet wet with D&D and then Dread's a really simple game mechanics, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But there's a bit, especially if you're somebody who's a bit older and you don't have the time or energy to learn new systems, you tend to gravitate to something that's familiar. However, just speaking that, I did the afternoon game with Chris, the Star Wars. I loved it. It was complicated.
He's one of the best game masters at this con and in Calgary, and he always brings something new and fresh to the table. He and Keith. Yeah.
So I think I agree with you. There's a lot of reasons why D&D, but there's a lot of different reasons why other games don't necessarily get the respect or the focus. And I think that there's a responsibility for those people who have it to actually kind of step up and maybe lead some games. And you might not get the first couple of games that you offer fill up, but do it a couple of different times and then and then introduce that. Like Dread's, a lot of people don't know about Dread. Dread is basically a horror-based game based on a Jenga tower. And there's some people do that. It's gotten, I think, a little bit more background exposure. But, if I put a Dread game, my Dread game didn't go. And that's okay. That's cool. I don't, that's fine. But maybe I'll offer it next time and the next time, and maybe it'll bring some people in. But there's that. I think there's a concurrent responsibility for people who want to play those games to actually lead those games.
No, that's a really good point. And I'll just I think we lost Marie's voice. Did we lose Marie's voice?
Did you lose? Can you hear me now?
I don't think so. I hear Marie.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I lost you for a second. And I hope
That's
I didn't
okay.
get in. I'll just add my 2 cents to Ellis's question, and then we'll just move on. I think D&D 5e is simple. It's a really straightforward, simple, very beginner-friendly system. It's been great to get people into the hobby, especially the younger generation, the 20-somethings. And they're even like going on dates at Hexagon Board Gaming Cafe before COVID came out. It's a thing. It's a social venue where young people or people in general can get together and face to face and see each other. At least it was before COVID. And in a time and an age where, especially with 20-year-olds, where they're dating by their phone apps, it's kind of replaced in some ways, in some circles, replaced going out to a nightclub or a bar and hooking up or meeting people. There you go. My ode to the lesbian bar, which is now a dying thing or a dead thing. So D&D 5e is great for beginners, and I like how D&D is bringing a lot and tons of young women into this. I think we've got some young women running D&D games today at our con. We've got a couple of young women that have run games in our meetup group, and the new generation is skyrocketing with the Twitch streaming, with YouTube groups, and Critical Role is an incredible part of that, and cosplay. It's bringing a whole new generation in, and it's bringing a whole new generation of women's voices, young women's voices. And I'm really impressed and amazed at the depth of knowledge and boldness of these women. And if you go to Women Plus D&D on the Facebook and join that, it's all young women with really vibrant ideas about the game and what they want to do with the game. So part of our topic was finding our voices in the game, but I'm seeing this new generation embrace gaming through D&D 5e, and then hopefully expanding out, because after a while you get burnt out from D&D. After a while it does get boring, right? So that's my little answer.
Yeah,
I'll give D&D credit where it's due, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And
definitely. I mean, I have an interest in Savage Worlds. That's another RPG that the mechanics are pretty straightforward. I have a friend who runs like Necromunda, Cipher System. Yeah, and you can find an RPG that meets your needs.
And I just want to bring up that Brent, as kind of Brent Noor is in our Facebook chat. Thanks, Brent, for your question. Yeah. He goes, is there a game out there that you've wanted to play but haven't had a chance to play? And I think we're kind of getting right into that topic naturally. So go ahead and let's name at least 1 or 2 games that you haven't had a chance to play but you want to play.
I just mentioned Savage Worlds. I've played it maybe a couple of times, and I've ran it just once. But I'm looking forward to, either getting in, trying a group, trying to find a group that plays Savage Worlds, or, trying to test it with a local group. I mean, we're just so in love with DCC, but I also like to play Savage Worlds.
Cool. What about you, Marie?
I mean, it's funny because Aliens, that when I found out that Aliens came out as a RPG, I was like, oh my God. Because I mean, Aliens was one of the kind of, to me, was one of the, it's one of the best horror movies in kind of modern, well, not maybe in the in
Ripley,
from that
Ripley.
Ripley, and but also, I mean, setting it in sci-fi and space, and there's a whole bunch of stuff to that, and it terrified me. But I watched every one of those series, and I remember I saw there's a video game for Aliens, and I watched a few of it on Twitch, and realized I could not play that game. That would just terrorize me. But I am kind of, I am thinking about seriously getting it, and trying to play it. Now, the thing about, interestingly, it's of course during COVID, everything has to go online. So I don't know if how well it translates online. And I think that's the other thing about D&D and why it's so popular, is it translate well to online game playing, because there's a lot of systems there that's already built into the system to kind of to like Roll20 and D&D Beyond, and I'm not sure if that's the case with regards to Aliens, but that is one of the games I'd really love to play when COVID goes away.
I think you should. So you're so good with Roll20 now that just be aware that Aliens has at least 2 modules on Roll20. It comes with the maps and everything, and a character sheet. Yeah, and it came out about, I think, a month and a half ago. So it's got the starter set and Destroyer of Worlds module. So please run it. Let's play it. And Brent
yeah.
just commented that he wants to run it soon too. And Brent runs a lot of games in the Star Trek Sci-Fi meetup. So make sure, I don't know if you remember, but definitely join up for that. And I just want to mention Christine Smith mentioned, just following up on a comment I made. She said, yes, my son plays D&D on Discord to hang out with friends, but laments that it's hard to meet people if you aren't into drinking bars and nightclubs. And that's just it, right? It is a new form. It's become a much more powerful form of socialization for this new generation than ever before. And I think for me, I was going through a divorce when I started those meetup groups, and it just helped me find a place to socialize and be around people, not to isolate, not to do the introverted thing and just buy books and not see people. As far as games, yes, Aliens. I want either you or Brent or both of you to run some Alien games so I can die. My character can die. Because they're going to die. They're going to die
They're gonna
horribly.
die.
It's just a matter, it's not if, it's
They're
when
gonna die.
and how many Xenos you're going to feed lunch to.
Yeah.
I think as far as a game I'm really looking forward to playing is Cyberpunk Red. I didn't get the PDF in time to run my game tomorrow, but we are running it tomorrow. And I just want to say one thing that's exciting me about playing games is, and then we'll maybe this might be a good time to jump into our things that we like or we hate about the hobby as women, because we haven't really touched on what it's like to be a woman in the hobby yet. I think we did a little bit, but one of the things I like about being a woman that runs my own table is I can make my games very LGBTQ plus and allies. Fill it all with queer content, queer characters playing a queer adventure with queer NPCs, and bringing that my underrepresented subculture and my who I see in the mirror, bringing that into the game, right? And that's one of the things I really like about the hobby. And I love that Black creators are doing the same thing, or African Canadian or African American creators, that First Nation creators are doing the same thing. That people from that's the great thing about technology, is that people from all around the world, all walks of life, are bringing themselves into these games to be represented, to be seen, and giving other groups chances to role play their culture, their identity, right? I like playing men. Why? I always joke, because it's the only time I get to pee in the snow and write my name correctly. But there's something about playing a male character that gives me greater empathy to men, to straight men, to gay men, whatever character I'm playing. It helps put me, just like an actor, I find some piece of myself in that character, and from then on, I can have empathy for that character and the group that it represents. So that's one of the things I really love about our hobby, is how it builds empathy between people and within ourselves. And then I'll throw it over to Joan. Sorry for the rant.
Yeah, that's um if you when we could attend conventions, There is a fellow named Jeff Goad who is on Spellburn podcast, and he and Hoy do Appendix N podcast.
I love those guys.
They are awesome, aren't they? Jeff
They're so
Goad
great.
runs a game called Queering the Dungeon, and I've played in it, and it was a blast. It was a blast. Could I tell you what the story was that we went through? I know the mechanic he used was index cards, and it was he used the Dungeon Crawl Classic rules, but it was a most interesting mechanic, and it really did open up the table because, you know, when you're running a game called Queering the Dungeon, who do you think is going to be around that table? Now, I mean, I was curious as to what he was going to be doing, and just to play in a Jeff Go game. Come on. But if you get a chance, and we get back to in-person conventions, and you get to conventions where he's at and he's running it, I you know, it's an extremely inclusive table. As for women running at conventions, you know, I don't know what to say other than I thought when I went to Gen Con 50, I was going to be the only woman running a game. I didn't know any other women, you know, any other woman running RPGs. I really felt like I was an oddball. But Gen Con 50, I met I met 5 other women that were running, and saw that you know, I wasn't the first woman to run DCC, and it was but it wasn't enough women running DCC. The following year, though, I think we tripled our numbers in Dungeon Crawl Classics running convention games. And it's just been an exponential, you know, number that has been growing. Now, I have had as a player, and I have had as being the GM at the table, men apologizing for either the language or what they said. I was in a D&D game where I was the only female at the table, and the GM who I'd played with before, he was the one who introduced me to D&D, had purposely made the setting in a whorehouse. So knowing that I was going to be at the table, and that he went ahead with the theme, and it, you know, I was uncomfortable. I could play with the theme if the guys at the table were also going to be respectful that there was a woman sitting at the table. Now, I could tell that the dungeon master, my friends, was uncomfortable with the theme he had chosen because he kept apologizing to me. Okay.
Then why did you choose it, buddy?
Exactly, Vicky.
Like,
exactly.
Get a fucking grip. Excuse my language.
Exactly. But
the thing is, if you weren't there, he would have run it and really felt nothing about it, right?
Right. So, you know,
So how does that make it okay?
It was definitely a wake up call for him. I don't know about the other guys. I think there was a couple other guys at the table that it was a wake up call for them too. But then there was guys at the table that they were totally oblivious. Totally oblivious.
Yeah.
And then in another game, you know, for one of the male players, I was the only female at the table. And for one of the players, it was all about body fluids. It was all about going up. Never mind. I am not going there. But, you know,
I got to admit, though, Marie's one of my players, and the amount of times I've covered her with piss and shit and barf. I'm sorry, Marie. I've seen the error of my way, and I'm sorry. But thank God. And the thing is, no one in her party has prestidigitation, so she's just covered in it.
Well, but
I'm
it's
sorry. I'm guilty of that.
but I think the question becomes is whether or not it becomes something sexual
Yeah.
versus something that's just part and part of the thing.
I can agree with that, Marie. I can. Yeah. Yeah. No, I had to look at myself too and say, okay, this is make believe. This is, it's not personal against me. At least I was hoping it wasn't personal against me. But yeah. But I think to be an inclusive table, you do have to take into account who's going to be around your table. So
yeah, that's a very good point. Marie, you want to follow up on that point?
Yeah, I mean it's a good point. I mean, I think that's there's a because it's too there's a bit of question about women in gaming, and that I've been very fortunate that and I think it's primarily because it's the LGBTQAIA meetup group.
Yeah,
And you're right.
that name itself weeds out a lot of creeps.
Exactly.
Big time.
Or you have to be comfortable dealing with people who you have to be conscious about being the other. When you're LGBTQIA, you are conscious about always being the other. So when you play the game or when you run the game, that is part of your consciousness. Now, not to say that a queer GM doesn't make some of the same mistakes that non-queer GMs would make.
Are you looking at me, Marie?
No.
What are you talking about?
I'm thinking myself as well, right? You have to be a bit more conscious about that. But it is an interesting point about the need to, especially as these games become popular, and you bring more people in, that and you want to expand that beyond those core group of people who've kind of grown up with the game, that you have to be conscious that when you run a game, you can actually totally destroy that game for somebody who's new, right? If you do something, if you make it, if you're not open, they won't come again, and they won't come again to your game. They won't come again to that game mechanics because it's spoiled for them. So I think that's the other thing to say is that, and I think that the one thing I really like about the introductory games that you do, Vicky, is that it is so open, so good that you can you run it very differently than say an advanced game where you get more into it. You can be a little rougher, but it's good like that. And I think those are the things. I think when we talk a bit more about how the good, what we like about it, I mean, I think one of the things, and I talked a bit about this, is that with COVID and being able to play online, COVID has kind of shrunk my social life, shrunk who I can socialize with, and being able to actually go online and play games opens it up. And I was thinking about this, about how you can play these games and connect with people and socialize with people without going through the getting to know you kind of thing, because you all come and share that common passion. And it's kind of nice to do that, without the pretensions of social, the not the game playing, but the kind of the going back and forth, the trying to figure out who you are, what can I say, what can't I say, in a social setting like a bar or even any kind of get together. That falls away when you've got a game, because you're coming with an understanding that, hey, we all want to play this game, let's play this game. And you get to know people without worrying about, am I going to say the wrong thing, do I look good, am I acceptable? Are you going to piss me off and I have to walk out the door? And I think that's what I like about it. And I think we are we are becoming much more conscious of stuff, and I think the fact that you have these growing number of games that go beyond D&D also reflects the diversity of the people you're trying to draw in and the people who are coming to the table.
Right. And Darren just asked in the Facebook chat, and I think this really fits in well with our conversation. Do you think inclusivity has arrived, or does it still have a way to go? Where are we in the process? What are your thoughts, Joan?
I'm Marie. I want to hear from you, man.
Yeah. Okay, Marie, we're sending it back to you.
Hey, dude, give me that. No.
No.
Hey, sister.
It's an interesting question. I think, for one thing, I think you'll always have to be conscious, and inclusivity changes, and it changes. What was inclusive 30 years ago changed is different than what was inclusive 20 to now to in the future.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing because on the one hand, D&D is great because you got different classes, you got different languages and all this kind of stuff. And I remember I was watching Critical Role, and I never thought I would get into it, but I'm really quite into it. And they had a character that was in a wheelchair. And I thought to myself,
yes,
why not? We live in a world of magic, something that's magically propelled. I mean, it's these things, and then you think about these different ideas, and then you realize that inclusivity and it's not just about opening yourself to other being open to other people's experience and how they bring it to the game, but also how do you make the games more inclusive with your NPCs, with your game settings and all that. And I know that can be dangerous too, because you don't want to be co-opting other people's lived experiences. But what I'm hoping is that as more and more diverse people come into the game and into the industry, they create those mechanics and those like NBC characters that aren't able-bodied. Can we, if and again, if that's being created by people who come from that experience, then that's fabulous, because what you can do is you can bring that in and you can actually create a much more diverse and a much more realistic real life fantasy and real life come in together experience. So no, but what I want to say is we should be enjoying becoming more inclusive and always thinking about that. That's the point. It's not whether or not are we inclusive or not enough. It's a continual process, and let's just have fun with it.
Yeah. Right. It's an evolution. And from the times when we were younger, when there was only white men, I'm assuming heterosexual, I'm sure there was probably a couple gay guys that were able to sneak in there. Running,
but couldn't say they were.
Couldn't say they were, absolutely. We're getting in there to now. It's an evolution where we've opened the door. We've opened the door, and I have to say, with the open gaming license that D&D does have, it has opened the door to more types of creators than ever before. And you see that Vampire the Masquerade has the similar thing with the Storytelling Vault and DM's Guild, and more, like you said, it's becoming less of an elitist hobby because anyone can self-publish now. Anyone. I mean, that was the great thing about the panel we had today with the design mechanism. Just seeing that a fan can go from being a fan to being a creator very easily. And Ellis, who's in our Facebook chat, he just published his first novel, and he's an Indigenous person.
Awesome.
And he's a game master.
Ellis.
I mean, blows my mind. Ellis has written this wonderful novel called what's it called? Oh, Ellis, I'm sorry. But we've plugged it. Humanities. Oh, okay. I'll look in a break. But the fact that we're finally getting a seat at the table. We're not the only interesting seat at the table. And I think back to our LGBTQ plus allies D&D group, the men and the white straight men we get there.
Women in general. I mean, whether it's LGBT.
Can I just finish my thought?
Sure.
The men that we get in that group that are white, straight, heterosexual are allies in the truest sense of the word. They help lift us up. They support us when we get bashed on other venues, they come and support. When I put some stuff about Monty Python's Consent to Gaming, I got bashed on one Facebook group, and our buddy Keith came and he backed me up. And so it's, I gotta say, I'm having a really positive experience in that sense. And I'm sorry, I just kind of went on a rant. And go ahead, Joan. And I'm gonna look up Ellis's book title.
I think he said humanity's best. I
Yes,
don't
thank
know.
you, Ellis. I'm
Yes.
so sorry, but
Yeah,
definitely get
I
it.
see that. Yeah.
And I think the title says so much about having someone who was a fan and become a creator and now expressing his point of view and his ideas in a work of art.
Yeah. In answering Darren's question, do you think inclusivity has arrived? I It's not arrived. And just like Vicky said, it's evolving. Um it definitely still has a way to go. Um and where are we in the process? We're talking about it.
Yeah.
I think that's big. And I think it, before LGBTQ entering women in the gaming, I have a problem with language regarding LGBTQ for myself. I'm talking about myself. Um, and knowing what to say or how to say it. I can say it as a woman. Um, and and I know what the language of a woman is, and I know what language is for me. I'm treated differently at a table full of men.
Yeah. Yeah.
um I I
Praise the Lord. I hear you, sister.
whether it's what we bring to the table is who we are. Okay, whether that's male, female, LGBTQ, um just our own feeling of who we are is who we bring to the table. uh yes, we have a physical gender, we have a gender we identify with, um but deep down inside, it's who we are, we bring to the table. And the inclusivity is, for me, the inclusivity is accepting who comes to my table and who they are.
Yeah.
um we may have ideas, we have set in our mind what a person looks like, and 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 we have made decisions on, are we going to accept them by color, are we going to accept them by how they act, what they say, initially, what is their accent, do they even, is English their first language? Come on, people, we are at a table to have fun, we want to play the game. And I think, as those of us running the game, um we are the game setter. Okay, as a player, what you bring to the game, help the judge out, help the GM out, help the DM out. You're not there to be adversarial. Okay, you shouldn't be there to be adversarial. And whether you're the GM or the player, don't come to break the game, come to play the game.
Yeah.
And,
think
and that's inclusive also.
I think I really like what you just said, because I feel my job as, oh, please, Debbie, don't knock the camera. That's my kitty cat. That our as a GM, I'm there. I feel like we're a director of the play. We're trying to tell a story together
Mhm.
with the players, and part of that is to give the players a really a moments to shine, and moments to work together, and moments to find themselves in their characters. Um, and in some of our groups, and Marie knows what I mean, we have, just like men, women have personalities too. And it doesn't matter if you're playing with a group of men or a group of women, you're going to have the alpha, and then you're going to have the omega.
Mhm.
And one of the things I struggle with as a GM is keep bringing the omegas in, because they want to play. They don't know how to find their voices. And part of our title of our panel was finding your voice. And I think as a game master, your number one job is to make it fun, make it inclusive, in the sense that give everybody the strength or the help to come out of their shell. And I've had several players that have been on the range of the spectrum of autism or Asperger's, and I've never seen anything like D&D or role-playing games to help those people come out of their shell and finally talk to people. And with those Omega players that just sit there quietly and you have to say, okay, it's your turn. What do you want to do? I think I'll just wait until the rest. No, no, no. And Marie knows who I'm talking about. It's one of our dearly beloved co-players. And when that player found her voice, she fireballed the shit out of everybody and saved everybody. When she
Should have
found her
warned me, but-
fireball,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she has never turned back. She is just finding her own
Amazing.
power and
Yeah.
her own confidence. And so that's what the game can do. That's what a group of players can do with a GM. That's, it's not, it's fun and everything else, but the fun part is seeing a player blossom.
And just to follow up on that, I think too, and that's one of the reasons why we talked about this game, is to talk about how, because for me, I was that player. I was the player that kind of came in and thought, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing here. And I slowly grew and slowly became much.
Yep.
I grew into it. I found stuff inside me that I never knew was there, and it was wonderful. And then I started GMing, and then again, that's just expanding. And what I want to do, and if there's one thing I want message to go out, is even if you're just starting, even if you've never had any interest or never grew up with D&D or any of these games, even if you're just like 1 or 2 years into it, even if you're just like older, try GMing, because it is a part of the game that just is just, it can be just lovely and can be wonderful, and you can grow into it. And we need that. We need different people coming in. We need GMings or DMs or judges. And
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
It's not GMing, being a game master, a dungeon master, or a judge is the next step in your evolution from a player to a master storyteller, right? From a collaborative storyteller as a player to a master storyteller. And it is the next evolution, right? In finding your voice. You find your voice as a player coming to the table, as playing your characters, getting in with more experience in different games. And then there's the point when you want to tell the stories you want to tell, and that you are the one that's the narrator of it. And so it opens up, you want to create the world, right? And that is the evolution. And I think it's very hard to go back to being a player once you become a GM. I got to tell you, at least for me, it is, unless I'm playing a whole new gaming system and I know I put myself in the hands of another master storyteller like Chris or Keith, or Joe Nolan, or or yourself, Marie, just someone that I know that I'm going to have a good experience. But take that leap. If anything, I want to say to young women or young people, take that leap, run your own game, find your voice, find your story, and then share it and let other people make it more. Oh, and I just want to add, so we've got a good question from Darren Tenner. What are the best physical tools to help a group that is all the same to be more inclusive? That's, again, a really good question.
Can I have to. I have a module that I developed that I want to put into publication, called The Feast of the Moon Queen. For Dungeon Crawl Classics. And I ran it the first time at GaryCon a couple of years ago. And it is it's based on all female characters. So anyone that plays the game must have a female character. So in play testing, I decided, okay, how is it going to help the players remain in their female character, okay, or at least help them develop a female character, right? So I got on eBay and I bought a lot of pillbox hats, So using some physical tools. I mean, that's a physical tool. So using physical things within your game, not just having their character sheet with a pencil and eraser in front of them, but laying out some stuff at your table. The funniest thing was, we took a break and the guys forgot that they had their pillbox hats on, and they do a bio break, right?
Yeah.
So they come back and they're kind of laughing at the table because they looked at themselves in the mirror and they still had their pillbox hat on and they were in the men's room anyway. So yeah, maybe I don't know whether that is answering
walk
the
a mile
best
in her
physical
heels, or
tools.
walk a mile in her heels, or wear her hat for.
Exactly. So I love the question, Darren. Yeah, physical tools. That was my biggest one. That was hilarious. So.
What about you, Marie?
That's a good question, and I probably don't. I don't have enough. I don't know about physical tools, but it's a good question. I think, but it's an interesting thing because in a sense, it's as much about shifting your mind when as a GM to saying, what would somebody else think if they were in this situation? And having kind of done some work around equality and diversity training and stuff like that, what I find interesting is you find problems around inclusivity, where you tend to have complaints with regards to people who feel they're not being included, is that you have a group of people, like you could be 4 or 5, and you have one person who don't fit the majority, and the majority, and we can talk about it, right? The 3 of us here, we all share a common experience. When we say things, we kind of know what we're saying from. When you have a group of, say, 3 or 4 straight older men and somebody else who's different from that, that group will share and have their own kinds of way of saying things and playing their characters, and the GM, if they reflect that group, will set the tone and talk about that. And I think what you need to do is be careful about that, and be careful that the story you're telling and the story that people are participating isn't just so narrowly focused that it excludes the lived reality and the comfortness from other people. And I know it's highfalutin and a bit theoretical, and I wish I could, but it's a good question. And I think actually I'm going to think a bit more about that. And it might actually be something that maybe for the next con that we can talk a bit more about that. But I know what you're trying to do, and I like that. I like your question, and I don't have an easy answer.
I'd say, as a woman in gaming, I say safety tools are an absolute must. I think for anyone in gaming, and I'm going to repeat what Merrick said in the podcast from Massive Destruction. I think I really encourage people to take a look at it. That was such a thoughtful panel. But having a session 0, talking about lines and veils, talking about boundaries, personal boundaries at a session 0, having those conversations, having an X card that if something goes wrong or someone wants to have, again, I find X card gives players and everybody at the table agency to express their personal boundaries and comfort levels. And in a way, it says, respect me because what you just did is crossing my boundaries. And it just brings that discussion. So what is the X card? All of a sudden, when you talk about the X card, I mean, I had several GMs apply for this convention, and I just said, if you're not running a safety tool, whether it's X card or something else, then you can't play. And I'm not trying to be rude, but that discussion and that mechanism of inclusivity means safety at the table. And as a woman gamer, having played with a lot of men, I haven't felt safe all the time. At Gen Con, I played a game where within 10 minutes, the men were joking about abusing hookers and talking about their porn collection. And I'm an old woman. I'm a 52-year-old woman, and I'm sitting there in a chat like this with these young guys, and it's not okay. And I said, come on, you guys, like, come, does it have to be like this? They ignored it. The GM ignored it. And I'm just, why do I, again, safety tools are important. And why I get frustrated with those situations, because you can sit there and say, oh, you're man bashing and blah, blah, blah. But it happens all the time. It happens to me all the time when I play at cons. I can't express to you how every con I have at least that experience at least once. That's not right. That's not cool. And that's why I created this con.
Mhm.
That's why I run my own games. That's why I love it when women are creating their own systems, like Thirsty Lesbian Swords, and what Joan's doing with DCC, and Dust Wardens that Nora Blake is doing. I love that, um, because like I said, it's an evolution, but these tools, we're talking about tools, having modules written by other people, people who feel other, again, right? Um, what's that wonderful Harlem Unbound is a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous Cthulhu module. It is great. And the perspective is insightful, and it's beautifully written, and the art is fantastic. And so seeing those voices, hearing those voices, those are the tools. Get out of your comfort
Yeah.
zones, everybody. Run something from a different creator than yourself.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
read their thoughts, you read their words, you have a sense of where they're coming from with their worldview. And that, again, comes back to the point of it's all about empathy,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
What this hobby does is it strengthens and works the muscle of empathy for one another as humans.
Yeah.
There's my rant, but great question, Darren. Thank you
Yeah,
so
it's a
Yeah,
much.
great
it
question.
is, and I took it kind of surface in the, what physical tools you could use within a module, and definitely the two of you took it uh, deeper. And no,
But
I
but both
agree.
levels exist, so that's totally
Exactly.
okay.
Oh yeah,
It's all right.
yeah. You think about what's gonna help your players through a game and feel inclusive at a table, um, at that surface level, but then at that deeper level too, um, where you want them to also feel safe, not just inclusive, but safe at the table. And wow, I with Dungeon Crawl Classics, I've okay, so I started RPGs at the age of 50. I'm now 58. Okay. I may not look it. Okay. All right. You got me to say my
I
age.
love it. No, but I'm just
Um
saying 58 and being great, woman. Feel your power
so
roar. Mm.
I hopefully I'm playing RPGs until I'm 75 or something like that, but anyway, I am close to being published with
Hmm.
a module
Yes.
that I've been asked to write. So I it scares me a bit, but I'm going to be one of the first woman that's published a module in the Dungeon Crawl Classics role playing
So,
game.
what's the name of your module, and when do you think? What's the rough date for it to get published and released?
It's called What Lurks Between, and it's for a third party publisher, and hopefully next year sometime.
All right, and
Yeah.
you're now part of the RPG Alliance Facebook, so you're gonna make a post and let us know when that comes out, right?
Yeah, I definitely will. Yeah, I definitely will.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we actually are getting close to our end time, but we got to give some of these great question givers or answerers,
Yeah.
or questers. Or now I'm just getting tired. Uh, we got two prizes, and we're going to do two things for anyone that's still hanging on. We thank you for hanging on. We're saving the best for last, which is the free stuff. And let's see, do we still have a couple? We got 5 people left. Yay!
Hey.
So what we've got is we're gonna do one trivia question, and the first person to put the correct answer in the Facebook chat group will win it. And that is from our Talasaurian. We've gotten a PDF copy of The Witcher because we thought it went with our title, and actually I stole it from a different place that we were going to give it away in the con. But Trevor, don't be mad. I love you. And so the Trivia Pursuit question. So the first person to, again, type in the answer in the Facebook chat will get it. What is the name of the title male character in the Netflix Witcher TV show? What is the title male character in the
Damn it!
Witcher's
can't-
Netflix
Can't
TV
enter
show?
it, can I?
Don't say it. Don't say
I'm
it.
not
Damn
going
it.
to be able to enter this.
All right, what we got? Do we got any takers? And then in the meantime, let's just look how many people ask questions. We got Brent, we got Al. Let's write this all down. We've got Brent. Thank you for all your comments about working with your players in Star Trek. Larry? No, Alice, it's not Larry. What? Alice? God bless you. No, it's not Larry. Wrong. Come on, you guys. Get the Google out. Come on.
Google it.
Get
Come
the
on,
Google
guys.
out. Let's go.
Google.
Larry kind of sounds a bit like it.
Oh, no. I don't think it sounds like it at all. Don't give him any
True.
hints.
No, okay, I won't. Shut up.
Google's your friend, my friends. And so who do we got? We got Darren, Ellis, Brent. We've got Keith. That
Oh my
said
goodness, look at all the names coming through.
Keith says he loves killing people and aliens. And Brent said he died twice in Keith's game. So yeah, that's true. I saw that. And we got Christine. Lovely Christine from Saskatchewan who ran some D&D for us today. And of Geeky Tendencies, please give her website a look. It's and she's put a discount code for you guys to go and get some good swag from her website. And we got, well, and Adriana who came and then had to go. And okay, I think I've got everyone's name. I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Joan, you got your dice out, right?
Yeah, I actually see that 7 people are on, but yeah, I have a D7, or do you want me to roll a D6?
Well, hang on a sec. Ellis, it's not Larry. It's not Marvin. Thank goodness Christine came up with Gerald. Now, with this, we got a bit of a spelling thing. She put Gerald. It's actually Geralt. So Geralt. And so Darren Tenner actually spelt it right. I'm sorry, Christine. We're going to have to give it to him. My apologies, but spelling counts. I don't care what anyone else in the other panels say. Spelling counts. So it's Geralt of Rivia. I can't pronounce it. Rivia.
River.
You played the game,
Yeah.
right, Marie?
I
You
am.
played Witcher?
Geralt
All right.
Riviere.
Geralt. Oh, see, I'm pronouncing it wrong. Don't worry, Christine. I'll find something else for you. Okay, cool. Alice put Buster. Oh, I'm scrolling down. Christine says autocorrect. You got screwed by the autocorrect? I'll find you something else, Christine. I promise. Ellis put Ellis. I haven't watched the show. Ellis, why have you not watched the show? Brent's a late one with Geralt. Oh my goodness. Hugo, Ellis. Is Ellis? Okay, I think he knows.
I honestly think he's funning with you. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
he's messing with my head because he knows I'm a fan of his new book.
yeah.
All right, congratulations, Darren. And now we're just gonna have Joan roll a 1d6.
Got it.
And whoever she rolls will get the next prize, which is a PDF copy of Hunter Entertainment's Alice is Messing. We really want to thank them. They really came through for us.
I rolled a 2.
All right. Oh, 2 is Alice. Alice, you won. Alice is messing.
Congratulations, Ellis.
That just shows you keep trying, man. You keep trying, and it will come eventually.
Oh
All right,
God.
so I will make sure I will take your names down, and I will make sure these prizes will be coming through the publisher. We'll submit your email to them, and then they will disperse those prizes to you directly. So thank you very, very much. Let's maybe do a kind of a last word. Yeah, victory dance, Ellis. I love you, man. You're awesome. I love your cats. Let's do a last word, ladies. Joan, you want to start us off? Any last final thoughts?
Last final thoughts. Be kind, be safe. And hopefully we can all get together face to face at a convention again. but we're not going to be able to do that unless we first keep safe, keep healthy, and do what we need to do to you know, uh, kill off this virus, or send it on its way. Hey guys, thanks a lot.
How about you, Marie? Final thoughts, final words?
My final thought and word is, if you're new to the genre, explore, have fun, find your inner role play personality. Take the jump. DM for your friends. DM if you DM online and you've got a bunch of friends and you have a couple of extra spaces, open it up to other people. Just have fun. That's all. Just have fun.
Okay, wow. Okay. I don't know how to top those. And we're not about topping. So there you go, because it's a collaborative effort here. Just playing off of Marie. I think play is such an important, healthy thing. And our beloved friend Doug Jones, in his message to the con, really expressed the power and healing of play. So take a look at that video if you can. He speaks very eloquently about it. I want to thank everyone that I play with. All of you. I want to thank everyone in this con. This con actually is a dream come true because, okay, I'm going to get emotional. A little girl in Brooks who had no one to play with. I now have people to play with.
And look where you are now, Vicky. Thank you very much.
And you have been instrumental in bringing new people in. Like me, if it wasn't for you, honey, I wouldn't be here. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. So, okay, I'm starting to get emotional, and I'll wrap it up. I think the message I really want everyone, not just women, not just young people, that we are all humans, right? Let's be there for one another. Play is a wonderful way to do that. And we're all humans that want to be seen and want to be heard.
Yep.
So as a human, to everyone, thank you for watching. But as a human, say your voice. We want to hear you. We want to see you. And we will give you the space to be who you are because we're all beautiful, right? So, yay,
amen.
Kumbaya, I'm a hippie, but it's very true. Find your intention. Find your intention to be a good person in the world, to respect each other, to have fun with each other, to support each other, to drink beer and chicken wings with each other. In Murray's case, vegan soup.
I'm vegetarian too, so come on.
All right, maybe a vegetarian stew.
Yeah. Cheers to you all. Blessings to you all. Thank you very
Take care,
much.
guys.
Thanks you all. Thanks for listening and thanks for being here. Joan, Marie, what an honor and pleasure. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we're going to end the stream and we're going to stop recording. You guys take care and have a great rest of the con Sunday.
Hey, you too. Make sure you get rest, Vicky.
Yeah, and come to our wrap-up party. We're giving away even more prizes. And thank you to Trevor, my partner in this endeavor. Without him, it wouldn't be happening. And I love him, and he's fantastic. And thank you so much. See you guys.
Bye.